Now you're good.
I'll call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. First item is a roll call. How's I? Here. Michael Kane,
Here.
you don't have your Australian accent. Drew Sutherland,
Here.
Kevin Fitzpatrick. Here. And I'll have Kevin sit for Steve. So we have 5 members voting. Next item is our public hearings. We have regular A2304 data center text amendment. Would you read the notice now?
The notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held on Tuesday, June 27th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in Community Room 2, Town Hall Annex 134, Groton Long Point Road, and virtually via the Zoom platform to hear the following. Zoning Regulation Amendment REG A23-04. Data Center Text Amendment to amend sections 2.1, General Definitions, section 4.1, Table of Permitted Uses, add section 5.1-6F, Data Center Use Standards, and amend section 11.1, Temporary Moratorium on Data Center, Town of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission applicant. A Zoom meeting link will be posted to the town's website meeting calendar. Applications are on file and available for public inspection during normal business hours at the Planning Department.
One chair that's, two. There's another chair. That's Oh. Okay. At the Planning Department, 134 Groton Long Point Road, Groton, Connecticut 06340, and at the office of the Groton Town Clerk, 45 Fort Hill Road, Groton, Connecticut. Proposed draft zoning regulations can also be viewed on the town's website. All persons having interest in the application are invited to attend, comment, and provide testimony and evidence. Dated the 16th day of June 2023 at Groton, Connecticut. So just for information, order of the hearing will be for the staff to make a presentation. Then to open the floor to any comments from the public. Then have comments and questions from the commission. And we have to repeat, may have to repeat things if needed. To get all the information out, because once the public hearing is closed, we cannot accept any new information before the action is taken. The commission takes action on the item. So, Deb, if you want to.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get close. You want to check my short-term memory? No, just for the order of the hearing. We'll have the staff will make a presentation, brief presentation of the change of the text amendment for the, and then open the floor to the public for any comments the public makes, and then any comments or statements the commission wants to make. And if necessary, keep rotating through that to get all the information out so the commission can make a decision with no open questions, because we cannot accept any new information once the public hearing is closed. So I'll turn it over to staff to make a short presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deb Jones, Assistant Director, Planning and Development Services. So as you know, in response to a number of concerns that were raised during a town council discussions regarding a host agreement for data centers, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted a 1-year moratorium on processing data center applications. This was done to give the commission time to develop data center regulations, and the commission has worked for the past year with the Horsley Witten Group. So this regulation will define data centers and accessory data centers. It identifies the zones where data centers and accessory data centers will be allowed uses. It adds new standards for data center development, and it eliminates the data center moratorium language. So data centers under this regulation would be allowed only in the industrial zones by special permit, provided the new use standards are met. Accessory data centers will be allowed as accessory to a permitted primary use in all zones except the green zones, the GR and the GC. The use standards would still have to be met, but a special permit would not be required. So the use standards include a size limitation on the floor area, separation distances between data centers, cooling, power generation, and noise requirements, fire suppression plan, an agreement with utility companies regarding the provision of water and electricity. In residential zones and the MDD, the Mystic Zone, data centers cannot be accessory to a residential use, and it also includes buffer requirements. As part of the work on this text amendment, the commission became aware that the existing noise section of the zoning regulations was not adequate and it was out of date. Notice of this change was inadvertently left out of the public hearing, so it cannot be considered tonight, but it will be added to the next text amendment that you consider. The required referrals were made to adjacent municipalities, the DEEP, and the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments. The DEEP found that the amendment is consistent with the Coastal Management Act, and the COG did not find any intermunicipal conflicts. You also received comments from the Conservation Commission and members of the public, some of which were included in your packet and others have been sent to you today. So that includes correspondence in favor from Bonnie Castellani, Jesse Stratton, Michelle McCullen Green, Stephen Pendery and Elizabeth Jorgensen Pendery, Ed Johnson, Shirley Parson, Kristen Earls, Carol Oviatt, the Groton Conservation Advocates, and Representative Andre Baumgardner. You've also received some correspondence against this text amendment from Nicholas Fiorillo. So if the commission decides to adopt these regulations, we would suggest a July 14, 2023 effective date.
Thank you, Doug. So I'll open it up to the public. When you want to speak, you stand up at the podium and use the microphone. State your name and address. So, no, go ahead. If you want to go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is awkward. My name is Portia Bordelon, 24 Jefferson Drive, Groton, Connecticut. I am also a resident. I'm speaking as a resident. I'm also an elected official. And I felt it was so important to step away from the town council meeting today, from the overwhelming comments that I've received from the public regarding data centers as a whole, for or against. Today, I speak as a resident, and what I've heard overwhelmingly, looking at the demographics of our town and the locations in which this would affect children, properties, I am in full support of the recommendation coming forward. I encourage this group and the town to act in a way that would protect our coastal, resilience and sustainability, and protecting our residents from noise and pollution from the diesel generators, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that I have seen, we had zoning that says it was industrial. Well, what was industrial when I was younger in the 90s is not industrial now. If you'd asked me before that you'd ever be looking in an industrial area for a data center, I would have said, what are you talking about? So it just draws you back to that whole point of, just because it says that it's, zoned as industrial, times have changed. And what will fit the tapestry of that neighborhood now is not something at this caliber, that's this high scale data center, greater than the regulations of the 12, I think it was 12,000 feet that you guys put on there. Anything above that in a neighborhood like that would just be, awful for the residents to endure. So again, for or against, obviously I am against high scale data centers in our town. I am for the regulations put forward. I know that you guys have a very hard job and are criticized constantly. And I want to thank the members of this body for doing your due diligence and working with the community, open and transparent, and making sure you're listening to all constituents, really looking it down and digging out the definitions of what this meant in data centers. The amount of phone calls I've received from other towns and states like Virginia, in different areas where other data centers are being proposed. Folks have reached out to me from Waterford. What does that mean to put a data center with the noise pollution on a coast? Many data centers have not been sitting right on the coast where they're proposing it now. Lots of concerns in our area, but today I feel very comfortable, and I want to thank this committee for the work and effort, and the community for speaking up, Groton Conservation, GOSA, for doing their work and really coming out here and trying to protect the beautiful town of Groton, Mystic, Noank, the area that we call Groton, to make sure that all folks, neighbors are represented and are safe in our community. Again, thank you, and I fully support this document. I hope it moves forward and it's in a swift process. Thank you.
Well, it looks like we may have a lot of people speaking. Why don't we start with the front row and say who wants, if you want to come up. And
we'll keep this short because of the large number of people who are quite rightfully interested in it. My name is Jim Furlong. I live at 57 Fishtown Lane in Groton. I congratulate the Planning and Zoning Commission for the firmness, care, and thought that it has given to this complex matter over the last year and preceding. You have made a wise decision in limiting data centers in Groton rather than allowing the riotous growth that you can see now bedeviling Virginia. The data center industry has been knocking at Groton's door, and we will need to remain vigilant in the town's defense. I don't expect him to go away anytime soon. Here's one early step. Let's restore quickly the accidentally dropped language on noise. I should hope that we wouldn't have to wait for another effort to change the amendment to wait for that. And in the future, I think we ought to keep data centers within industrial zones, well separated from nearby non-industrial zones. Thank you.
thank you.
My name is Mike Hewitt. First name is actually George, but I go by my middle name, Mike. I live at 10 Riverview Avenue in Noank. And I'm here to just simply state, that I support the regulation as it's been drafted up, proposed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The idea of limiting, the size of the data centers as you proposed is something that I fully support. And as well as limiting, the concentration of the data centers. So I support the regulation as drafted.
Paula McDougall.
What's the light?
Thought I did something.
No, is that what it's the light?
I have to sit down.
No,
I guess it's the air, AC.
I think it's coming from the HU events, yeah. Is that what it is? I mean, it sounds. It's not, I don't think a light. No, go ahead.
That's quite all right. Paula McDougall, 464 Flanders Road, Mystic, Connecticut. I'd like to thank the committee for their one-year moratorium on the data centers and for taking the time to research, think about, and come up with sensible regulations concerning data centers. There's no need to rehash all the potential hazards of large data centers, but we should take a moment and reflect on them as you go forward with your vote. Some of you may recognize me as the homeowner that would have been living directly across the street from the data center on Flanders Road. I have a significant piece of property and pay my fair share of property taxes. I don't think there's anyone in the town of Groton that wouldn't welcome businesses to come into town, into the correct space to help relieve our tax burden. I wouldn't mind my taxes being lower. While these host agreements do relieve the business of a hefty tax burden, the $3 million+ New England edged and kept upping promises very tempting to help lower our tax base. But even though Even though data centers are a necessity in our everyday lives, large data centers are not the solution for the well-being of Groton. I attended the meeting last year when you made the decision to enact a one-year moratorium. Well, I watched it from California, but same difference. I'd like to quote some of the remarks the members of the committee made in that meeting. And I have the remarks, but I don't know who said what. The whole issue which I brought up is that large data centers do not seem to fit into the light industrial definition. And I remember talking about driving around and looking around different areas of Groton. And I think they mentioned the area where Amtrak was, and the comment was that even there, you know, which seems pretty far away, it was still too close to residential space. Another comment was, there's no compelling reason to have a data center in Groton. And lastly, the last comment I have is, it is as simple as we don't have a place to put one. I support the regulations you have come up with and hope that you will adopt these regulations tonight. Thank you.
My name is Ian Thomas, 24 Jefferson Drive. And I just want to thank the commission for doing their due diligence. Also, I'm a member of the RTM, District 3. And so I just want to say that I believe these text amendments to the regulations are well crafted and done in a mindful way that will allow for some limited data centers to exist in an ancillary fashion, supplemental to another business. Yet does limit the size and the scope, and as well as explicitly define what a data center is, which actually would correct one of the issues that came up last year where the zoning official made a declaration that there is a telecommunication center. And I believe, like, if I understand the situation correctly, that these text amendments would essentially vacate that letter. And I would like to hear some clarification on that when the time comes. Yeah, all things being what they are, thank you for the work that you've done. And I look forward to seeing the noise ordinance or the noise situation remedied as soon as possible, like whatever was inadvertently left out to be put back in, and that requires another hearing. I hope that happens in very short order. Thank you.
Well, to answer your question,
Yes.
the definition of data centers would be revised to what they're proposed. So it would supersede the official.
Right. So that letter is no longer relevant.
That's correct. Well, yes.
Yeah. Great.
But the noise criteria is in here, and it refers to a state I don't know if it's a statute or a procedure. And there we define which section applies for noise. And it does use the term communication center under one of those terms, and that's what we're using.
Okay. So what was, if I can just ask, like, what was the
There's a
part that was-
noise section in the zoning regulations
Mhm.
today that needs to be revised to reflect the current state regulation.
Okay, and that'll be coming up soon?
Yes.
As
Yes,
far as the
that-
process?
But
Right, that
it-
regulation applies to all
would
uses, not just
apply
data
to-
centers.
Okay.
Yes. But the regulation that we're proposing tonight does contain reference to the state's regulation.
Very good, thank you.
Hi, my name is Genevieve Sir. I live at 6 Pearl Street in Mystic. I'm here also to congratulate you on all the hard work you did on the data center. And to tell you, I think it's kind of amazing because wherever you go in town, and I've been doing that for many years now, somebody's always complaining about something. Those of you who've been here a long time know that. I never hear anybody complaining about our planning and zoning commission. In the last few years, you guys are doing an absolutely fantastic yeoman's job. So, and we're all incredibly grateful. In this case, you know, this data center proposal was obviously not really well understood until some of you, especially Kevin, who's an expert in the area, figured out that there's a big issue of size and what they're going to be doing, how much power they need. how much effect they have environmentally on the neighborhood. And the fact that the deal was sort of signed with them before it came before you is to me completely unbelievable. And I'm so glad that you were able to take a look at it. And I hope that your decisions and your discussions stand in the zoning regulations as the permanent thing that we need for this town. I'd like to say one more thing quickly about data centers. I'm in the field. I have a PhD in electrical engineering from Columbia. I worked for 23 years for Verizon, many hours of those in data centers, and mainly closing a lot of them down because as the electronics and the technology get more and more powerful, we need data centers less and less. And so we closed a lot down when I was in Verizon. We closed a lot of them down. And this is one of the fears that I had. And I believe Kevin might have mentioned that also. The technology is progressing at such a rate now. I've been actually studying quantum computing, which is absolutely fascinating and is now finally actually being deployed commercially. When quantum computing comes, it is a completely different hardware, different programming. And all this stuff, which people are, the big corporations are trying to put in now, Amazon and Meta and all of those, they're going to have to rip out everything that they have to put these quantum computers in. That could leave us in a very difficult position, because if it's something like the oral school that people just abandon, or the Crystal Mall that people just abandon, what happens is that the municipalities are left holding the bag. And we don't want that. We don't need that. We don't need all that amount of data. And we certainly don't need giant data centers, which now they want to use for ChatGPT, ChatGPT uses a huge amount of compute power. And as you may have heard, some people think that they're just being trained in order to kill us and destroy us. So I certainly don't want one in the middle of the town of Groton scheming to do that to me. So I think you've made, without even knowing all this scary stuff that's not so far away from where we are now, you've done really a great job, and I am sure everybody else are very grateful.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ellen Furlong, 57 Fishtown Lane, Noank, Mystic, and Groton. I want to congratulate you for getting here. I think this is a wonderful thing, and you've done excellent work defending the town. I strongly urge that the P&Z data amendments be adopted as quickly as possible, with the missing noise regulations following promptly. Incidentally, I view the idea of a green data center as a mythical beast that may exist at a future time when centers take up 10% or maybe even 2% of the land that they sprawl across now. Thank you.
We'll go to the second row here. You don't have to speak if you don't want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Howard Vise. I live at 10 Prospect Street in this. And I simply want to register my support briefly but fervently for the data center regulations. I believe the town escaped serious environmental damage in March of last year when it rejected with prejudice the massive data center project that was then proposed for Flanders Road. The decision reflected in part what Councillor Baumgartner described as a resounding no from the public. The job now falls in your hands to make the protection of the public more sweeping and enduring. The regulations proposed will ensure that public opinion continues to be honored, that the community will continue to be protected from excessive noise and air pollution, that natural habitats will be preserved, as well as the look and feel of our community. and that persons residing in neighboring properties can continue to live in peace in their homes. An excellent job has been done in fashioning the regulations. I ask simply that you see the job through to its conclusion and grant the community the enduring protection that it needs and that the draft regulations will provide. So thank you very much for the work done thus far. And hope to see it concluded. Thanks, Mary.
Good evening. My name is Victor Malaga, 76 Riverview Avenue, Noack. I am here also speaking in general support of the proposed regulation for the data centers in the town of Groton. And although I think I've read most, perhaps I've not read all the contents of the regulation, so I have what could be either a question or a comment. The regulation stipulates that under emergency conditions, the data center is allowed to use diesel generators, but to at least my knowledge, and perhaps you can clarify this for me. The regulation does not specifically define what is a reasonable interpretation of emergencies. That lack of definition makes room for interpretations, one defined by the data center itself that includes a variety of operational internal problems caused by factors such as faulty design, improper equipment maintenance, staffing shortages, and other factors that are under the control of the data center. Data centers have uninterruptible power supplies. If these systems kick in on demand due to internal data center failures, the regulation, I don't know if I've written this particular detail, if we could please clarify this, would essentially offer an open-ended no-fault allowance for use of fossil fuel generators anytime. The definition would be an emergency means we need it right now for whatever reason. But those reasons can be business practices and maintenance schedules and the behavior of the data center itself, as opposed to what the rest of us would define as an external true emergency. It is crucial for the Commission to specify situations when the need to use fossil fuel backup power is caused by internal data center preventable failures. Those are different from emergency due entirely to external causes such as severe weather or utility-dependent unstable power supply situations. Threshold levels for the use of power by data centers are typically measured by megawatts. That issue may not, that issue will be addressed eventually in the host municipality agreement. But even if that task may not be the responsibility of this commission, it would be very helpful for the commission to come up with unambiguous regulatory language. Some examples of what I would call external true emergencies, obviously include total power outage that would result in immediate shutdown of critical systems and services, unstable power supply that would be dependent on the utility performance. There are some ambiguous or mixed situations such as brownouts, because the excess demand of these data centers will lower the threshold for brownout situations that exist today without a data center anymore missing. Overloaded power capacity, when the power demand of the data center exceeds its available power capacity, causing potential overheating, trip breakers, or power supply failures, would be an internal issue to a great extent, because it would depend on the commitment of a data center to provide support services for whoever the users may be. Cooling system failures. Power distribution units, PDUs. PDUs distribute power to various racks and equipment in the data center. The PDU failure, such as improper overload, faulty components, poor maintenance, etc., can disrupt power operations to critical systems, impacting their functionality and availability. But again, those are dependent on the business practices of the data center itself. Fire and electrical hazards. Any event that poses an immediate threat to the safety of the data center and surrounding areas due to a plant fire, electrical sparks, or other hazardous conditions would, from the data center perspective, be considered a power use emergency situation. A proactive solution for this would be for the regs to specify that an emergency caused by the fault of a data center does not constitute a town-sanctioned exception for running fossil fuel up generators at will. With clear regulatory language in place, later in the process, those negotiating the host municipality agreement and user fees would be able to include things, something such as a surcharge for the, to account for the megawatt of generation use caused by town or utilities no fault situations. This arrangement would be an added incentive for the data center to maintain and operate their facilities safely and efficiently. Otherwise, the people of Groton would be paying with their health, air quality, noise pollution, and potentially even higher energy costs for problems caused by the data center failures. Of course, the use of renewable energy backup systems, examples of which exist, would partially mitigate that situation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Well, yes, the reason for the emergency. And one of the things is size. You're talking about a huge data center. These things are very small. But it's to prevent power shake. That's what the reason for emergency use.
In general,
And I don't, if I may.
Yeah.
The actual text doesn't talk about an emergency. It actually says power generation, on-site power generation using fossil fuels is prohibited, except for the occurrence of unforeseen loss of off-site power. So nothing that goes inside matters.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I support that.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Could you
My-
say your name?
My name is Eugenia Villagra, and I am here tonight representing Groton Conservation Advocates in support of your draft regulations for data centers. We think you have written excellent regulations that will protect Groton from giant data centers of 150,000 square feet or larger and only allow small data centers that will serve local business needs. Thank you for the many hours you spent working to come up with these regulations and providing a forum, and also for providing a forum for the public to provide feedback on your proposed regulations.
Hello, I'm Gary Wells, located at 527 in Old Mystic. And I'm a member of the RTM, so this has come up before. I'm in support of the regulations. I think that we're limiting the size of the data centers. I'm not quite sure why we need large data centers. I've been experimenting and discovering the internet since the mid-1980s. And used to use distributed computing, which is now referred to as the cloud. And my cloud has usually been another computer in the other room or the thing underneath my desk, which is not good if there's a fire or something and no help there. But right now I use fixed wireless connection, and invariably if I search for pizza, if I were to search for pizza, they would come up with listings of a number of places in North Jersey, because that's where the data centers are. Running along the railroad tracks, we have a heavy duty, perhaps the highest capacity internet that runs from Boston to New York and DC. It runs right along the railroad tracks through Groton. And back in the day, CompuServe had had a data center here or services here and realized it's not antique. They were acquired, I believe, by Verizon or Union. But this is, and I've done pings and trace routes to find out, where the data goes and how fast it goes. And things, really, I'm not sure if I don't think I'd be benefit at all if my data was bouncing around up and down Flanders Road. So I think small scale, as you suggested, is a good idea. We'll see where this goes. And what sort of needs people put to it. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, before I get dig again for whatever freedom of information, I'm also an RTM member. And that's my own, but I was speaking as I said the name. Okay.
Hi, John Goodrich, 1315 River Road. I'll keep it very simple because I think you guys are going to have a lot of the same comments and people speak more eloquently than me. Just want to say I support the proposed legislation. I want to thank the commission for all their hard work on it.
Lynn Marshall, 118 Pearl Street in Groton. I support the amendment to the regulations and want to thank you so much for all your work. It's been fun watching you go through this process. You identified all the parameters, you looked at it from all angles, you looked at short-term effects, long-term effects, and it's just wonderful to see such a high-functioning group. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you.
Nancy Cody in 97 Front Street in Noank. I'm here to speak in favor of the Planning and Zoning Commission's draft regulations for the data centers proposed. As I understand it, the commission is allowing for small data centers that serve local business needs. I believe the regulations developed address many of the concerns voiced by the public. We should be grateful that we have alert, intelligent public servants, as well as astute conservation advocates protecting the interests of Groton residents. Thanks. Thank you.
Anyone on the back row wish to speak?
My name is Frederick Fisher. I live at 26 Main Street in Noank. And the first thing I'd like to say is disregard the letter that I just handed to you because there's some errors in it. But there are a couple of things that I will still agree with my own notes, which one is we appreciate your time and effort on behalf of Groton. Disregard the fact that this is addressed to the Groton town council, because I thought we could present our notes to them this evening. Obviously, that's not the case. And there are a number of items that I absolutely agree with, which everybody has already covered in the draft regulation. And so I just want to say thank you again. And I do believe that the adoption of this proposal will reduce the intensity of lobbying by profit-making organizations who would seek the creation of large regional data centers, which would cause major environmental problems. So thank you for your good work. And keep it up. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the commission?
If I'm Helen Shelby, my name is Peter King, 83 Front Street, Noank, Connecticut. And I'd like to compliment the committee on a very good job in drafting these regulations. And my wife Carol and I support. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joan Smith. I live at 37 Island Circle South. I'm here in support of your regulations. Most of the ideas that were covered by the other speakers, I support. Thank you for your hard work, your diligence. I think this will be a much better setting for future applications for data centers. So thank you.
Anyone else wish to address this tonight? We have.
Good evening. I'm Chris Regan. I live at 20 Finley Way, Stonington, Connecticut. Family's owned a shopping center in town for 70 years. And in regards to the zoning, I've listened to you guys in regards to your hearings throughout the process. And it's a process that takes a lot of time and effort to understand an industry. And what you guys are doing with this regulation is eliminating entirely a data center coming to this town. And that's the future. You're going to be required down the road to have these data centers in your region. So I wasn't going to come and speak tonight. I was out mowing my lawn and I said, you know what, I'm going to come down and talk to you guys. Because I think you're making a mistake, my opinion, because the industry wants to come into New England. And by doing this, you're going to prevent a 12,500 square foot data center is not a data center. It's nothing. Because at the end of the day, they occupy only a third inside the building. So it's not much of a compute area. And in regards to what we have in our area, in this area, we have great fiber. And the industry wants to come here. So I just think that you are cutting what technology is going to be in the future, and data centers are not closed. They're growing. And they're going to be required for self-driving vehicles throughout the area. You're not going to have it computed down in New Jersey for a self-driving vehicle in the future. It's going to be in our area. It's got to be, there has to be a data center in this area for that to happen. So, but you guys will make the decision on it. And I just think, you know, I think you should really put some thought to it to make sure you're making the right decision for the whole town, entire town. I wish this could go out to referendum. I would love it, but it's not going to. But you guys make the decision, and that decision will rest with you guys of what our future looks like for this town business-wise. And I hope there's a message eventually that this town is business friendly. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address this? We have one person with their hand raised.
Yep, hold on a minute. Let me allow him to speak. There we go. Okay, Nicholas Fiorello.
Good evening, Town of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission. This is Nicholas Fiorello, the CEO of Space Data Partners that currently has a binding executed community host agreement and power purchase agreement with the town of Groton to operate data centers within the town of Groton per the 2021 agreement, referendum, and approval by the town and the town officials to operate data. I thank everyone who has put their concerns on the record, and I wanted to address the liability that the town has been put on notice of such agreement because the company does possess a contract to operate data centers within the town. The town was put on notice multiple times over the last year, and most recently on June 12th, and here again on June 27th, that it is taking the position of the town violating its community host agreement and power purchase agreement, and the Planning and Zoning Board, which we do respect and do acknowledge the concerns of the town members, abutters, and citizens, the issues of environmental, power consumption, and size and scalability of the data centers and the noise pollution are all warranted and will be addressed within the development or future development of the data centers. But I think it's unfortunate the town has not educated the constituency or the citizens today. And I have a question. Is there a town attorney present here this evening that is participating or is in the council chambers?
No, there's not.
Has the town provided any guidance to the citizens in what the repercussions would be in the decision tonight if the planning and zoning board attempts to what is considered a spot zone or a vote to limit and or restrict what the town already communicated and entered into a contract to operate data centers that are larger than 12,000 square feet, 500?
I can address that. The town attorney has reviewed these text amendments and did not find anything regarding spot zoning or any of the other issues that you have raised.
Did the town attorney advise you of the litigation that's outstanding? And if the town took the vote, they would be in violation of the community host agreement and the power purchase agreements?
Town attorney's aware of it, and it is not a concern of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Did the town attorney explain to you that based upon what you are attempting to do, it would be considered spot zoning? And is the commission familiar with what spot zoning is?
Do you want me to, no,
it's
as I
not
stated
spot
earlier,
zoning.
it is not spot zoning, and no, the town attorney did not have any concerns regarding these regulations. He had minor ones which have been addressed by the language, but the ones that are before the commission right now have been reviewed by the town attorney.
What is the commission's position in review of the existing community host agreement and
We-
power?
We
agreement
don't,
with-
You have nothing to do with it.
that,
They have nothing to do with it.
all we are concerned with is what can be placed in zones within the town. We have to receive a proposal for an application for to act on something, which we have not received.
Is the Planning and Zoning Commission familiar with the community host agreement and has reviewed?
It's not
it?
relevant.
Excuse me?
It's not relevant to what we do.
The town and the town itself is a charter of which you fall under the charter, and the town entered into a community host agreement to allow the operation of data centers larger than 12,500 square feet. You fall under that regulation, and the town specifically had
It's
entered
not-
into.
It's not relevant. The host agreement has nothing to do with what can be placed within zones, zoning zones within the town.
Is that the position of the town attorney, or is that the position of the commission?
Well, I guess it's the town attorney.
If I can just refer, because very rarely do we answer the questions as far as public comment is concerned. We did answer a couple this evening, right? We're on question 12, I believe, if I was counting correctly. The algorithm's already been pretty good. And these are questions for the town attorney. These are not questions for the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I would ask the speaker, please direct those questions to the town attorney, not the planning, because both the staff here and the chair has said they're not relevant. So if you continue down that path, I would ask that you go through the town attorney, anything that you're asking, which is a legal requirement.
Well, he really should address the town council. shouldn't he?
Right.
I don't
It's-
think he
it's
can
not-
address the town attorney.
It's not an issue for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Right.
You adopt regulations, and that is what you are considering tonight.
That's all.
Okay, has the planning and zoning received the email communications that have been sent by Got Space Data this evening?
They were forwarded to us, yes.
Okay. Is the town familiar with the report that the town was advised about such types of zoning and regulations and what the planning and zoning board can and cannot do in
I
the,
think you should not
Yeah.
answer any
Well,
more questions. If you have anything more,
No,
yeah, I would,
we're
I-
not.
yeah, I would suggest that the commission not
not-
answer any questions. If you have any other input, we're happy to hear it. But the commission's not going to enter into a discussion during the hearing.
okay. Is the commission opposed to postponing the vote this evening so the town attorney can be communicated with about what
You can
the,
address the commission with the statements, and that is it. We're not debating. You cannot debate us. You're not part of the decision-making process.
I
All you do
understand
is
that.
provide information.
I asked if the town or the commission,
Connected from.
Just just to be clear, we've entertained some questions which we actually were in our complete right not to do. So we've been responding to you out of being polite. But this is not the format for a question and answer period. This is just, please. This is just for you to present information to us and nothing more. So
I would
thank
like
you
to-
for your comments. We understand them
I-
and we
I would
appreciate your
like-
concerns, but we have to end this.
excuse me, I'd like to continue providing information to the board.
So long as there are no
Well, you can
questions.
just provide the information.
Oh, yes, thank you. So Space Data submitted a series of communications to the board today that positioned and explained the company's notice to the town. And it was addressed to the commission, Space Data and Ocean Development Partners, and Nicholas Fiorello in his individual capacity and as manager of the development companies, in connection with the binding and enforceable Groton Data Center Host Agreement and Power Purchase Agreement the town has entered into, is now hereby on notice for the second time to cease and desist the unlawful hearing of this evening and the town's attempts to breach and interfere with our company's plans to develop data centers in the town of Groton. As the town has been informed, we have filed suit and has taken an action against the town of Groton for tortious actions and interference and attempts to block or cancel these binding agreements by way of aiding, abetting, and furthering the unlawful rezoning or spot zoning scheme to usurp the rights granted by the town of Groton away illegally that would clearly prevent the development and operation of data centers that are larger than 12,500 square feet. We hereby command you to cease and desist the town meeting of June 27th, 2023 of the Groton Planning and Zoning Commission and its notice and or advertise application for the regulation text amendment that will impede the development and operation of Space data center projects in this town of Groton. Such data center regulatory change or spot zoning text amendments are in clear violation of Space Data Partners and Qualified Data Community Host Agreement and Power Purchase Agreement with the town of Groton. Notice is hereby given that the town of Groton has been sued in the case Space Data Partners versus Any Edge et al., the town of Groton, and is facing upwards of a $30 billion federal RICO action under case number 123 CV 00121. And here's demand that upon notice of today's hearing and the consistent attempts to limit and or regulation of text amendment to modify, restrict, rescind, revoke, impede, spot regulate, or rezone is clearly unlawful and is set and impeded by the town in violation of the community host agreement. Why the company hereby demands the town of Groton cease and desist the hearing agendas, strike the vote, and revert to remove the text amendment from the agenda this evening, as Space Data and Space Data Partners Development has respectfully, with all reservation of rights, remedies, and offsets and claims for damages and enforcements of the GovSpace Data Community Host Agreement and the Power Purchase Community Host Agreement with the town of Groton, requests and or by demands the town cease from voting this evening to approve a clearly unlawful text amendment to limit the development of data centers in the town. The town has now been noticed officially that it is a defendant, which it has known for quite some time, in a lawsuit, and its intent of GovSpace to bring swift action to impede or unwind the vote taken tonight and seek damages, punitive and otherwise, in the many millions of dollars for the towns and the planning board and zoning board and its conspiracy to limit the development of data centers, hereby given notice by Nicholas Fiorello individually and as manager of GovSpace Data Partners.
So
Thank
we
you.
received this
right.
communication.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we don't need any more.
Onward.
Does anyone else wish to address this in the public? So I'll turn it over to commissioners. If they have any additional comments on the regulation of it, and if they're supporting it. I'll start with you.
Okay, well. Thanks for. You need to keep this in the hearings that I completely support it, where we are today. As I recall, it was actually somewhat painful for us to only be able to limit the size of it. We all wish we had thousands of acres somewhere to put one of these data centers, and we just didn't. So we were asked to do what we did, and we did it. We're not making a decision, by the way, for New England. We're not making a decision for Connecticut. We're not making a decision for New London County. We're making a decision just for Groton. It's the only place we have. It's the only, and that's where we have a problem locating one of these at this time. If things change in the future, we'll look to change, but for now, that's the best we could do. It's the best we could come up with.
Mike, do you?
I have no comments, Mr. Chairman.
Comments?
You say no.
You said no comments.
Right.
Sue?
No comments other than we did actually poll, the staff polled the number of large businesses in town to find out what do they really need. I thought that was quite interesting. I believe the largest one was Pfizer, and it was about 12,000 square feet. And that was the biggest, and the others were less than that. And so anyway, and I think the whole process, I really appreciate all the public input, expert input from people. And I support these regulations.
Sure. I just have a few minutes and few points I want to discuss. So it was, as always, within the town of Groton. I think what the chair has led us through is that we stayed within our mission. Even this evening, what our mission is to provide a planning process, a framework for this town, specific to the town of Groton, as how it brought up. And that's what we did. We took a look at what the conservation of Groton was, and the conservation plan. Personally, as many of you know, data centers are my business. So I run, the very largest contracts in the world as far as the silicon enablement goes. I've been in data centers from 2,000 square feet to supercomputers, which I ran for silicon companies for many years, to hyperscale tier 4 data centers. And they're massive. The scale is what drove us to what we believe is a good decision. But midway through the process, also, we stayed within our mission lanes, and we allowed for the ability to have very small, non-contiguous data centers, as far as this is concerned. So we took a look at our land use, and while we realized that hyperscale data centers could apparently not fit within Groton, and I'm fully behind that regulation. If you've ever been in a hyperscale tier 4 that has 800,000 square feet, you've never seen anything like it. It's double the size of our fabs. These things are outrageous as far as the size is concerned. But In pursuant to a comment this evening, fastest growing part of data centers are what we call edge, small data centers, very similar to an industrial building that we presently have in town. And we modified our regulations so that if you chose to put in a small data center, which is the fastest growing part of our business, from any of the major cloud service providers, all the hyperscalers, then we allowed for that. The ability to do that in very specific zones that are typically not residential anyway, but very specific as far as the zones. So it's not spot zoning. This is a zoning framework that you've asked for in the town of Groton, and hopefully within data center we provided. So for me, I'm very much in favor of the text amendment. I think, particularly with our consultant, of course, I think they did an excellent job at making the comparisons and the verbiage very much fit what the town of Groton is. And as Hal said, not anything else but what the town of Groton is. So very pleased with the work of the last year.
We have one more person with a hand on it.
I believe so. So it looks like Mike's Galaxy.
That's Michael King.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Oh,
no, he's over here.
oh,
Mike's Galaxy.
Yep.
Hi all. My name is Mike DeFranco. I live at 160 Heather Glen Lane in Mystic. Appreciate everyone's input tonight. I just had a question. Sorry, I haven't been following this for the year period. It looks like the council, you guys did a really great job coming up with the proposed regulations. The only question I have for everyone is, so heard a lot of testimony kind of for and against tonight. Can you give us the average size of a data center? It seems like from the town's perspective for local businesses, the size would support. But if we were to bring in like a bigger industry or someone wanted to come in, what is the average size of that data center? And is there a really big tax benefit from having that? Was that something that was considered? If you have any details on that, great. If not, appreciate everyone's time tonight.
no, as somebody stated, the largest data center for a town business is less than what we're proposing is the maximum number. So if necessary, and somebody wanted to come in, they can always ask for a change in the regulation.
Okay, so that sounds like the regulations really aim to keep it as a local data center, not something for like say a Google or some company that might want to come in and create a monster warehouse, so to speak.
It's less than what
Exactly.
hyper.
Okay, and I guess
There
if
was
so,
a survey done of the largest industries, industrial applications. Right, so.
All right, so I just want to point out that Mr. Fiorello has raised his hand again. I don't know if you want to.
No,
Yes.
Hmm.
I'd like to address, I'm sorry, sir. The gentleman that was just speaking, it appears to be a light olive shirt. I'm not sure of your name, sir. Could I have your name? I'm confused. I can't see your name and who I'm addressing. I have a question for you.
so my name is Mike DeFranco. I'm not in. I'm on the Zoom call. I'm not in the
No,
room.
I'm sorry, Michael, not on the Zoom call, the person on the planning and zoning board.
Who is
He's
that?
talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's you.
That's
Yellow shirt.
I'm the olive shirt, I think, on the screen.
Mine is the olive.
Yes, I'm sorry. What is your name, sir? I can't hear you. I'm
My
sorry.
name is Hal Zod.
Oh, how are you, sir? You said a little earlier on that the commission or yourself was asked to make these amendments or changes. Could you specify who asked you to make those
We're
changes?
not answering questions.
I really can't answer that right now, but you can look it up. But now you can only tell me things. I'm sorry, but
We
we're kind of
receive, but we don't answer.
Okay, for the record, you did state that you were told by someone to look at these regulations and to change the size of the data centers.
No,
That's not what I said.
What did you say, sir?
I'm sorry, we're done.
we're
Thanks for your
not
comments.
answering. You can comment. You're not
I was
addressing-
commenting that what this gentleman had stated is
Make a
that someone
statement. You can make a
make
statement.
a statement, I am making a statement, that someone had contacted the commission and told you to make these changes.
It's
Which-
not
Thank you for your-
relevant.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Trial.
We. Is there any, does anyone have anything else to address us on? Can we? I guess we can close. If we have nothing, no other information to receive tonight. We can close the public hearing. Does anyone have anything else that you think we need for information? So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for the data center text amendment. So second, moved and seconded. Does anyone have any comments on the motion, any discussion on the motion? So we'll vote on the motion, to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion is carried unanimously.
Should take a break.
It's up to you.
No, let's, I'd like to, the next item is consideration of a public hearing. So, open that up to any further discussion. Do you have anything else?
I have nothing else.
Encouraged. Mike O'Kane, do you have anything else?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
So do you have anything?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
No, we have a proposed.
So a draft motion was
Draft
sent to you
motion.
earlier. I do have paper copies if anyone needs it.
Have one.
Got it.
No, I received.
Okay.
Does anyone have any comments on the draft motion or any opposition to it? So I'll make a motion then to approve zoning regulation text amendment application REGA 23-04 to 1. Amend section 2.1 definitions to amend the definition of data center and to add a definition for data center accessory. 2, amend section 4.1 table of permitted uses to conditionally allow data centers and data centers accessory in certain zones under certain conditions. 3, to add section 5.1 6.f data center use standards. 4, to delete section 11.1 temporary moratorium on data centers. The Town of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission adopts zoning regulation text amendment REGA 23-04 pursuant to the following findings and reasons for approval. 1, this amendment is consistent with the town's 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development, POCD, with particular regard to promotion of sustainable commercial and industrial development and support of small businesses. 2, the amendment is consistent with the town's municipal coastal program and the CGS section 22A 90 through 22A 111 Coastal Management Act, with particular regard for protecting coastal resources, protecting water quality, and carefully managing coastal development. 3, the zoning text amendment is made in accordance with a comprehensive plan for the town of Groton and provides for reasonable consideration of the environment in Long Island Sound in accordance with provisions of CGS 8-2. This text amendment shall become effective July 14, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, then we'll vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried unanimously. All right. We'll take a break. Take a 5-minute break.
Yes, break. All right, very good.
Okay.
All right, so back at 8:18.
Okay, so our next, we resume, our planning and zoning meeting again. Next item is approval of the minutes of previous meetings. We have, minutes for June 13th. Meeting, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And second, does anyone have any corrections? I had one on page 3. Sort of in the middle. Right above. Section 11, commission reports. In the previous section on 10:4. There's right last. Sentence in there says the front yard setbacks on land, of course, should be similar to adjacent properties, and it says report of commission.
Oh, yep,
I think
got
that.
it.
And just for clarity, and maybe this isn't relevant on. In that same section. In the section right, sentence right before, it says the commission discussed the application. The commission had the following comment. Should we add to be provided to the ZBA? You think that's necessary?
That's what we always do.
No, I know, but well,
Uh,
I don't know if anybody cares. It got done.
It does. I mean,
So I guess
do a
that's
memo the next
really-
day.
Why don't we just
Yep.
take out that? thing?
Okay.
Does anyone have anything?
No.
So we'll vote on the motion. Bill, did you
Can I
have?
ask? I honestly, I don't remember if I mentioned it last week or before because it's a little things, but. Things like that I bring up about. Light standards not being met. I mentioned Mystic. I don't remember if it was last week or the previous meeting.
I think it was previous.
Did it show up in the meeting minutes? Don't think they do.
Okay, we generally try to.
Okay,
Yeah, I
usually-
mean, if not, that was definitely a mistake. We try
Okay.
to Hit all of your.
The
comments.
highlight, just the highlights.
Right, right.
Highlights.
But,
Well,
but if there's
if I say
something
3 things,
specific,
then.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right, okay.
It's not in this.
No, it's.
It was previous. Yeah.
Because we do have more information, I guess, required, but it's good for keeping track and providing how we make decisions. We'll vote on approval of the minutes for June 13th as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion is carried unanimously. And next, we'll move on to our next item. We have site plans. SIT 2303, Flanders Development, so Flanders Road. We have right to make his presentation. State your name.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Greg Fettis with Fettis Engineering, with an office at 70 Essex Street in Mystic, Connecticut. Here representing the owner and the applicant of what we call Zero Flanders. There's a couple of Zero Flanders on Flanders Road. So this one is just the one that's just north of the transfer station. You can see on the cover sheet that the
Pull it over to get it on.
Yeah.
We've got one commissioner who is remote in that way. You can see it as well.
You could take away
the agenda. I'll go a little further. Yeah,
then.
that's perfect.
There you go.
Okay, so the transfer station is just south at the bottom of the sheet that you're looking at and to the west. So that's on this property is on the west side of Flanders Road across from, I think it's called the Mystic Business Park, which is a similar type of building, a industrial flex space. This one is going to be significantly smaller without the room for kind of future development because of the wetlands that are located on both sides, the southern portion of the site that kind of moves into the transfer station property and the northern side of the northwest corner of the site, which also kind of moves on to the adjacent properties. So we did get wetlands approval. We went back and forth a little bit just because of the amount of wetlands, and that it really kind of reduced the areas that we could develop, with being respectful of the setbacks to the wetlands. So the wetlands are indicated by wetland flags with arrows pointing in. So there's a portion here that it extends almost all the way to Flanders Road. And then there's a portion here in the northwest corner that actually is an intermittent stream that runs all the way up to a culvert that crosses over from the Mystic Business Park. And that we got approved to kind of redirect and repipe and get into a kind of a more defined channel. There was significant signs of erosion and sediment movement in this channel. So we're proposing a plunge pool to slow down the water, a riprap channel level spreader, and then a riprap channel to kind of get it, move it back into where it goes now, to a wider swale, about halfway through the property. As I mentioned, this is the cover sheet, so I'm just going to flip through the sheets and won't spend too much time. Existing conditions, because there's only a 100-foot regulated review area kind of right here. It's about where we place the building. But again, shows the wetlands and so forth. There's a little driveway encroachment that's existing, which will grant an access easement to the neighboring property to the north. So this is the site plan. Basically, we limited so 60 by 120 building, with garage doors on both sides. So their units will be 6 potential units that you can drive kind of in one door on the north side and out the southern door on the other side. This also shows kind of the landscaping. There's a stone, relatively short retaining wall that kind of surrounds the perimeter of the paved area. 4.5 feet, I think, is the max height of that wall, and then there's a planting buffer around the wall. And then kind of we show the limits of disturbance with the new tree line. In this plan, and I'm going to go to the grading plan, which shows the some of the drainage changes and so forth of the stream. Our parking is located, some of our original plans had more areas for parking, but basically we have two-way access around the entire building, and then 11 parking spaces on either side. So if you rented unit 1 or unit 1 and 2, you would control the spaces in front of your doors. That way there's no, you don't have to worry about somebody parking in front of your unit. We do meet all the zoning requirements, well within the, say, well within the height, well within the building coverage. We're at 5.9%, 40% allowed. That's because of the amount of wetlands on the site and the buffers. The 50, kind of a minimum 50-foot buffer. We did a little bit greater in areas. setbacks and so forth all are met. Minimum lot size is 30,000, we're 122 plus thousand. So we are adding a sidewalk across the frontage, accessible ramps on either side of the entrance. Street trees in the section that we're actually will be doing any kind of clearing. The balance is pretty well treed to the south and to the north of that last tree that we're proposing. Electric car charging stations, bike racks. We also have a trash enclosure located behind the building. We had a section of fence that would, which is required to block visibility for any outside storage or outside vehicles. So this shows this sheet, which is sheet 4 of 9, referred to as the grading plan, shows a new catch basin located where there's an existing one, and then we would pipe over to the plunge pool, give us just enough room to get the access around the building. We have on the north side of the building, we have underground infiltration that all the roof leaders on this side drain into. And we have some.
Shouldn't have said anything.
Started off.
We do have a
Yes.
hydrodynamic separator that's gonna basically treat the water before it ends up back into the into the wetland. Ultimately, a natural swale about halfway down, but a man-made riprap swale, plunge pool, and level spreader. And details of that. Our septic system's located on the south side of the building, where we were pretty close to original grade with what we're doing, so that all kind of worked out. We do have a well located in the westernmost portion of the property, protected by a couple bollards. You can see the stone wall kind of swings around it. We did get a screening clearance that were not a public water system, which took a little bit of extra time. That's probably why we were on the agenda for last couple meetings, and we weren't able to come before you because we were waiting for that. And a couple details of the wall, again, 4.5 feet maximum height. That detail, the stone channel cross section and the plunge pool. Erosion control, get the tracking mat coming in, basically hay bales around all the way around basically the perimeter of the development, as well as additional hay bales here where we're going to be constructing the drainage improvements. Lighting and landscaping. I think we added the landscape requirements right on here. But really we just have one light at the entrance for safety. And then we have building lights that go around the perimeter of the building, but you can see the foot candles extend just to the kind of edge of pavement. Again, and then the landscaping buffer all the way around, and street trees along the frontage. Details of our underground infiltration, which will help us with our maximum volumes and runoff rates, slow the water down a bit. Gets treated before it gets into the swale with the hydrodynamic separator, which is also detailed. That's probably detailed on the next sheet. Well, probably the last sheet. Again, catch basins, the stockpile, handicap ramps, sidewalk detail, anti-tracking pad, the silt sack and some of the existing catch basins, the bike rack and the dumpster pad. Maintenance on the stormwater system, which include the hydrodynamic separator, the plunge pool maintenance and catch basin maintenance. So septic system. Septic system details, the charging detail. Our test pits, our sign, which I think is within the requirement of freestanding sign. And that's it. So any questions, be happy to answer them. I can flip to any sheet. Thank you.
Turning over to staff.
Thank you. So this project is in the IM zone, mixed use industrial. As Greg noted, it's a similar project to what is across the street, which is a flex space, some manufacturing, small office within some of the units. It basically serves, folks who have a business who are ready to move out of their home base or their garage or that sort of thing. Up and down Flanders Road, it is industrially zoned. There are self-storage facilities, a small manufacturing. There's no water, no public water, no public sewer. So this is on-site well and septic. Tabitha provided a fairly detailed staff report, so I'm not going to go through all of that in terms of landscaping and parking and whether it complies with zoning. I will note that she's suggesting that lighting, it be very clear that lighting is going to be full cutoff on here, and that the stormwater system, which is a little complex, be certified by the design engineer. The lot is clearly constrained by wetlands. The wetland agency held a public hearing on this application and really, frankly, really pulled back the original proposal. There were additional buildings proposed initially, and the wetland agency pulled all of that back. So this is consistent with the wetland permit.
The staff report raises a couple of issues, and they all resolved.
For the something from Public Works, she's got that as tech items to deal with the retaining wall and
Retaining wall.
and right.
Geez, it's some concern. I don't know. Their sidewalk detail.
To place a sidewalk detail on it.
I say sidewalk is missing the requisite technical strip.
That's for as you come to the driveway.
No, I mean, it's a taken care of.
But that's a detail. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
just.
that's just a detail. It's a tech item.
He was talking about trees.
Exactly.
And that's
What they
technical
appear.
too?
Yes, that's also on her tech item list.
Yep. I just want to make sure that.
Yep.
So I'll open it up to you now for any comments or questions. No, I mean, it looks simple enough, so I really don't have much to do with the building itself. I was surprised that this isn't actually part of the Mystic Business Park. It's just somebody else's, who's just copying their success kind of thing. That's about it. And
I would keep it simple and say yes.
that's about it. It works there, so one more building. I get that. You got the property. I mean, it's right. They don't have much property, so put one building up, and it's not much room to do anything else. And I don't know if looking at the landscape / lighting plan, I've never seen that before. But I suppose if that's meets the regs, then that's what we'll do there because it's similar to building. I'll get into one of my favorites. So it's the lighting. As I see your lighting of the driveway, and you actually put the lumens right there on the chart, which is fantastic. But then when I see the ones over at the building. Now, there's a range between right at two of the doors on either side of 20 down to 0.1.
between them, which means that it's a completely bizarre range of lighting. I've never seen any lighting engineer ever come close to anything vaguely like that. And it's also perfectly concentric circles, which is about what you get from a bare light bulb. So I'd have to say that whatever light is fixture is picked for here apparently isn't two parts. One, it's not the right one. And it's also right down over the door so that you get this hot spot right underneath it. If you look at the side of the elevation, you've got them right over to the doors instead of up near the eave line so that it can spread. With a full cutoff light with decent optics, then you can control where it goes, just like your light you put over the driveway is very controlled as to where it goes. And I'd say these lights aren't doing the job. We've got perfectly dark areas and super hot spots. So between the contrast, if you look over here, you'll see nothing where it's dark, and it'll be too bright where it's light. So that needs to be fixed. You need either put them up higher, which will do some of it, but also take a look at the optics of those lights, because that's not cutting it. I also noticed, I see in the reports, it says, okay, it will have full cutoff lights. Unfortunately, right on the drawings, the light fixture you picked, it has the number on it. I just went to look it up. I go that far. I looked up it. It comes with a choice of being a full cutoff or not.
I want to say we have a note specifically on the plans
Well,
that
you should-
say
Okay, well, it should
full
actually,
cutoff.
because you've actually specified what the light fixture
Yeah.
is. But under that specification that you gave, that number, there's two choices when you're looking up on the catalog, and it gives you a choice. So. just
Okay,
add on to
we'll just
that.
add it right to the
Just
detail
add it
too.
right onto the detail, but then go back and take a look and see what the optics are, because this is terrible. This is darkness and too bright in strange places. I think you need to have a minimum in front of exit doors.
Yeah, I
Just
think
help me
there's
look.
small lights on the man doors.
I can see that on here, and it looks like that's the lights. And in this case, it makes it, if there's more lights, then you can see those, because you need a light at each thing. And you can forego that if you just get the right lights on the building up higher.
Right, okay,
As
we'll
long
take a
as-
look at that.
And as
Thank
long as
you.
they're full cutoff, then it'll look fine, it'll look better. We're good for the road. Everything will work better.
Okay, I see. It says full cutoff and reflective lens models available.
Yeah.
I thought we had put a note somewhere. I
They're
apologize.
available, so don't do those.
Can we put them as a technical?
Let me take a look. But you mentioned them. Make it. Get off the availability and just put on there that.
Yep.
That's what it will be, the full cutoff on that detail.
Yes, sir.
But you also might want to just look at a different fixture, because I might not. That might not work. I think they're not bright enough. But considering how much electricity an LED uses, I don't think it matters. You know, it's not like we're asking for some. Okay, what's on your two? Oh, on here it says, I was seeing on the motion that we're asking for a full cutoff fixture with photo cell sensor or a time clock. They kind of maintain that you need both. You're going to have it shut off at 11 o'clock at night. But during the summer, that's a different time than during the winter. And unless he's going to be out there changing the time all the time or having it run when there's a ton of light out, you know, 7 o'clock in the summer, then you just put both up one. So that's the way to go. It's the simplest possible thing. Save electricity, put in the time clock. So that should be if you don't mind, that the photo cell center and a time clock. Yeah, take care of it. That makes sense.
That's, you want to put that in.
I'll bring that up.
I'll see you next.
That's right. Thank you. Let's make sure that's agreeable. And that's small. I have. I see there's not much room for pedestrian movement on this, which I suppose doesn't matter considering the traffic that would be on there. I know we typically would have some little sidewalk that would get you rather than the driveway. So I don't know if we're going to push that for the one building. I would like to see it, but I don't know who's going to walk there, honestly.
It's a very limited use for this kind of use. You just don't see, I mean, I drove up through Mystic Park today and I think I saw maybe a couple parked cars and one person walk, maybe one or two people, one person leaving in a car and one person. And there's a lot of buildings up there.
It depends on when you go there.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
it's only-
sure. Yeah,
If there's a dance class there, all these people show up. There's things going on.
yeah.
It's not pedestrian friendly because there's no pedestrians there. So I kind of get that with something like this. So I wouldn't push that. Because unless something shows up in there. Unless the dance club wants to move to here. And then I'll come back and say, let's put in a sidewalk. So, but I don't know where you'd walk to from here. It's just one of those. Honestly, it's not a bike path. It should be a bike path. Bike path very close to it. But here. Right, it's really. That's right. But it's really a storage. It's really, well, you can do whatever you want it for, I guess. It doesn't surprise me. There's 0 windows. Put on the record.
Well, we did, yeah, we did get that, we overheard the comment, or we didn't overhear it.
Somebody mentioned?
Staff overheard it mentioned to me, but
No, that
not,
was a
so
comment I
our
was gonna
plans
bring
we
up.
submitted were more, I guess, volume based, not final design
Yeah.
stuff, but this is a photo of kind of something a little bit.
Because I
closer.
had that as a
Okay,
comment.
so
I was concerned. with
Yeah.
that.
That makes
So
more
there
sense.
are some, I don't, we're gonna submit building plans to,
And frankly, this is a Butler just, so that you can order it also with X number of percent of translucent panels for the roof. It's a checkoff item on there, and they're incredibly effective. So I would suggest that too. We can turn off a lot of lights when just have a few panels facing the right way, which this does.
right,
You probably want to face them like too hot.
but I don't,
There's nothing to do with site plan.
there's another type of building that's similar to a Butler building that we may be.
Well,
considering
it's
staff.
pre-manufactured building.
Yeah, I mean, I meant different than a manufactured building, so
Okay.
it's still pre-manufactured, it comes in panels, but it's more
Okay.
insulated and
This is going to have a metal roof on it?
yes,
Okay.
most likely,
They're the
but
same.
it may be that it's insulated versus not insulated.
I don't think we call it to that.
Well,
That's the other discussion.
Yes.
It's just a suggestion of it. And you can still get insulated, very nicely insulated translucent
Oh, okay,
off the shelf.
okay.
All right, I digress wildly there. So that's all I got.
Mike, do you have any?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman. I think Mr. Fettis has been very thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No comments. Mr. Zog's been very thorough.
Yes, as well.
It's,
To work on my lighting.
So I can't read some of them.
Yes, my comment is just, Greg, could you just go over the use of swales in there? I mean, I know what a swale is, but how does that fit into the whole water runoff? It's kind of a macro, 30-second explanation would be great.
Okay, so really the only place we utilized the swale is leaving the plunge pool. And this redirecting, we're just gonna flip to the original or the existing conditions just for a second. And I will be brief. So right now, there's a short piece of pipe, I think it's about 25 feet long or so, that leaves a catch basin that, comes from under the road. And then it enters. You could consider it a swale. It's about this wide, but basically where the water goes and basically carves out through the ground a channel.
But it's uncovered.
Uncovered.
Right.
So we're basically taking, redirecting that, putting in a plunge pool, and then we're gonna create more of a, wider, what I would call a riprap swale, which is basically, when we do have. So that's the cross section of it. So basically, low flows will flow down at the bottom here as it fills up. And I think it runs pretty hard during a heavy rainstorm. And that's why you get you got quite a bit of scouring and sediment
How
movement
deep?
through there. The existing one?
Yes, or the proposed one.
So this is, it does vary. So it's it's not that deep. It's once just at this cross section that we took, it's about, I want to say it's probably about 2 to 3 feet deep maximum.
Yeah, I've just seen those California swales that are these massive things. I just wanted, that's perfect, thank you.
I had a couple of questions relating to use of the building. That I think the staff summary or somewhere else, they're talking about there's or allowed office space in these buildings on a mezzanine deck.
Yeah, so what the
And
plan,
is there things like windows, ventilation? Are you going to heat all the buildings and?
There's gonna be heat.
conditioning?
yeah, there's gonna be heat. Typically, these kind of buildings get the kind of the gas furnace up in the corner. There might be additional electric heat in a little bit of in a little office.
Yeah.
But these are more like Deb mentioned, like a landscaper or a painter that, has a couple vans now and has a trailer and needs a place to basically, someone's tired of him keeping all that stuff at his house and probably not,
No, yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing. And typically what you see is some will just put a little mezzanine in the set of stairs where they can just, have a clean office. Keep all their other stuff downstairs, whether it's parts, again, no hazardous storage here. Maybe paint was a painter was a, I'm not sure that paint is a hazardous material. Some probably is, but this is, more of a, I guess, industrial flex space is probably the best way to describe it. It's not really set up to, there was some mention during our screening process for the well that, oh, you could, 7,200 square feet divided by 200 square foot per employee, you could have 30 something employees there.
well, I was thinking that you might have one person there during the daytime. or
Right,
something
but we
in the
can't.
office.
We can't because
Yeah.
we don't meet the parking. So
Yeah.
if we ever decided to turn it into total office space, we'd have to come
Oh,
back
no, I knew.
somehow before you and find parking spaces for all those employees.
So how do you control use of the space? I mean, do they sign an agreement as to what they can do there?
Yeah, I think it has to fall within the zoning requirements. I'm not sure how, whether they,
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
you
exactly
could have
sure.
A full-time warehouse person in there, or record keeping, or somebody answering the phone. I don't have a problem with that. I just was curious. How you could, how the.
I think you have to get a zoning permit for an individual space.
You do,
No.
yeah, you do.
Oh, we do?
You do. When
So-
you change the use, the building department requires a form that documents the change of the use.
No, I was just
yeah.
curious. That's
Yep.
how that can actually be controlled. So, what we have to be concerned with is what goes into the building.
Yeah, I think there was some hypothetical, office, you could have 30 or 40 people in there.
Oh, I
Big
was
enough.
thinking of just having,
Yeah.
you'd
And-
probably the max have one person, but.
Right, well, it'd probably be, I think
you May not.
in the screening process for the well, which, there's a threshold of 25 people for 60 days.
Oh, yeah, yeah. it's-
And we're, I think
You're gonna be
two
less. yeah.
employees maybe per unit. If
Oh,
there
I
were 6
wouldn't- I
units,
would
if they
think
were
that
all,
would be
yeah,
fine.
so it's,
Yeah.
which is probably a lot.
Yeah.
But-
No, I was just concerned with that, so yeah. The fire marshal gets to approve this,
Yes, absolutely.
they approve it, but ledge light approves
Mhm.
the
Well, and septic, yep,
septic, do they have to have a backup septic
that your reserve area.
reserved area? It is.
Yep. You have to identify.
Yeah, which we do show that on the,
Oh, okay.
plan.
Because I just wanted to get.
Primary and reserve. The systems for this type of
No, it
use are
was
very
space.
small.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, just they're so constrained.
Yeah.
With space.
Yeah, the wetlands,
Developable.
the wetlands
space.
clearly did their job on this one.
Yeah, that's what, no, that's the only reason I was concerned.
Yeah.
Was whether there's enough space. I guess that was all my concerns. And I assume that they can actually do some small fabrication work in there if they have to, if as a plumber, he has pipes that he has to cut to. before
Yeah,
he
I think
wants to
that's
put
an
on the
allowed,
That's all
truck.
allowed.
That's
allowed
what's allowed,
use.
right?
It is,
That type of stuff. It's
it is
small fabrication.
light industrial. right?
It's
Yep.
super light,
Yep.
I'd call it. I mean, it's just really make ready stuff. If it's. Guess it's telling me it's time to show up. If no one. If no one has anything else to add. We've got a draft motion. Does anyone want to make a change to it? You wanted to do something on the light,
And.
Photo cell sensor and time clock.
the photo cell
Number
sensor
two.
and.
Yeah.
Change the word and that was it.
That was it. Fixes it.
No, okay. You have any concerns with it? Huh? There's some you've seen this. No one has any other concerns for the motion. So I'll make a motion to approve site plan 2303. For proposed flex space warehouse industrial development at 0 Flanders Road with the following modifications. One, the design engineer shall certify the stormwater system has been constructed per the approved plan prior to the issuance of a certificate of site plan compliance. Two, the lighting must be a full cutoff fixture configured with a photo cell sensor and time clock on, time clock off operation and be turned off after business hours. Three, any modifications to the site plan based on any federal, state, or local agency requirement shall require additional review and approval by the town of Groton land use agencies as appropriate. Or technical items as raised by staff shall be addressed. Is there a second? Second. Second by Sue. Any discussion on the motion? None. And we'll vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried unanimously. Good luck with this. Little building on a big one. The next item is site plan 2306 Highway Cannabis 79 Gold Star Highway. Upside down.
That's the correct way to roll.
Yes.
Backwards. Oh, that's a reason. You always roll it with a printout. That way the label shows, the title shows on the outside, end of race one.
I don't know, I always fold them in. Well, we only, when we went to paper like this, we folded.
Oh, okay.
The only rules we had before you had computers and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's what we talked about.
We put them on the big monitors. And other thoughts. Yeah, they would always fold them. Yeah, and they were stored. But then they always put them in the blueprints.
Right, in the blueprints, you always have.
They were always folded.
No, because you follow, because you're engineer.
No, because there were so many. And they were kept in plan books.
Okay.
Just for use of people, tradespeople.
Gotcha.
Hmm?
Gotcha. You're on.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Dr. Easton, partner with law firm Robinson Paul. We're here tonight on the application. We brought an LLC. For site plan 79 highway. The proposal is for conversion of existing medical dispensary to short reading, so regulations 75 and 21. That's side, I should remember that by this time at night, I remember. I read this 3 in the afternoon and it's sunny out.
Well, we could turn more lights on.
Yeah.
All right. So with me this evening, virtually is Flood. Vice President of Real Estate. Also, I think that as well. Our project architect and site plan is David Foster. So time believe is matter. So and also so just quickly, the site is 79 Gold Star Highway. The development is 79 Gold Star Highway. We have agent authorization and record allowing. This is in the CR commercial. It's basically right at the start of Gold Star Highway, running before coming off the highway. It's right the way. Coming up the, this is sort of an access ramp from the 12. It's right there on the right well. The area immediately adjacent became commercial uses. There is currently a hotel to the south. No relations to the apartments. Down 24. Then you have all of 184, double lanes in the highway. Across the street. Basically surrounding future proposed currently the nearest existing residential use of going to the site in your our package we gave you diagram which is all use 1,500 feet. And not with any for the end of the property, property. And an exact opposite of the site plan you just went through. Everything here is existing, nothing is contained, so size. It's just the use. It's a permitted with conditional use and no. Quickly about the history of the site, the site been here a while. The site had moved back to 1966. So before that, yes, that plan is actually sort of a central, yes, house area to be demolished. So then according to the staff report, was built in 1972. More recently, we'll remember this, the 2019 administrative site. We had a lot of and it was considered a performing use allowed. That is still an operation of the property. There's some building permits, modeling, some 20, basically used to operate the same system. And as I said, this is a proposal to be allowed. that the site is allowed under the uses, under the specific regulations. And then it has to be consistent with 79.5, that 4, and so on. So, what I said, except for the signs, there's happy in there, there's the mall sign on the outside, and it's gonna have. That's the only explanation. The application. Anything like that. And basically, that's because the site is sort of maxed out. And if you look at it, the whole front yard area is paved, it's filled. The building itself is backside to the rear yard. Also, very close to the street property boundary. A little more room on west. There is the parking, then right next to it. Basically that would be beyond the off ramp. It is basically over the dollar site. So no changes are proposed to site itself. In order to be approved, as reason compliant by 1-1A, new regulations. There's 5 conditions, and we comply with all of the third ones. The distance between those gaps has to be at least 100 feet. There's no level of uses allowed yet. In that previous another schools, churches, hospitals, charities, and none of those uses are being application developed, proposed a security plan. Prior to the regulations, early May, better from him but it was a security plan with respect to update that. The next condition is really just about what happens next. Permit issuance, how the only permit come back from the state. Have the adult use without the next step. And then the 5th condition that we're going to do medical marijuana standalone. That's not here, because moving on, compliance with second round factors. Consider this is all in our application materials. So first is town ban compliance. List divisions in there. This area of the town, commercial area, retail service, commercial development. It also includes development and redevelopment, always service sites. Or ask investment, there. So for this site. This is and lastly, assisting existing businesses. Statute that town. Soon part of the Maybe we'll have a benefit to the town. Second consideration of public safety. The site had a complaint on the accessibility of fire police, student. Police traffic access can be the same. Access is one way in, and one way out. It's very wide runway, say lines, directions. That's all the state regulated, very good state regulated. And then maybe sufficient access. Currently, it's very simple. Size, status, and the same. It's 21 parking spaces. Right away, then and this property medical marijuana retail in fact. In that team, no big is about existing parking and sufficient. We asked them now that existing bill, really no. I noted landscaping on the front of the building. The rest of the site basically paved or in or close to the right of way for very small in terms of way. You don't get very any other landscape on the property. Back side of the building is all vegetated. Plan blocks the building from the property that's established. Vegetation around the southwest corner of the building, but otherwise, sight lines. Lighting. One changes to the exterior lighting proposed. The lighting is actually all full office and photos and with the sun back here, which shows down there, the one board to go. It's the there's also some recessed lighting along the trees. Your other considerations of public health, environmental feature, character, sound, public health, environmental, nothing will change in this. To what it is now. That. Have you any questions?
Yes, staff.
I have very little to add. As noted, this site is fully developed. In reviewing it, we looked to see whether or not there was anything we could improve. And for example, trees to shade the parking lot, there's no room. We looked at internal sidewalks, and while yes, you can do that, it drops you off in the middle of the parking lot. It's not, there's no way to safely get someone up to the front door. It's in an awkward situation for access. I mean, literally you have to come up Route 12 and get on the exit ramp. You cannot make a left-hand turn off of Route 184 to get into the site. So really, it's just signage. In any other circumstance, we probably would have handled this administratively because they're not proposing anything except adding additional products, for lack of a better word, inside the retail facility.
It's really, we're just approving change of use.
Yep, yeah, yeah,
Without much. It's really the sign.
exactly,
It gets a new sign.
yeah,
And a
right.
purpose, I mean,
right,
the product's still the same.
right. I mean, it's, for example, if you added milk.
Well,
to
different, you
CVS,
can
we
have
wouldn't
different ones.
Be talking about it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just because of the nature of cannabis.
Yep. So I'll open up to the commission for any questions and concerns.
But if we're gonna have it on the record, though, it's, we probably should. But this is use but not zoning, since we did approve the change of the hotel to apartments, and the other hotel is already apartments. So these probably, those things that wrap around the building probably should connect lines to residential, Just for future.
More customers.
Well, yeah, that's what, so, and the ones that can walk. Okay, so
Yeah.
even better.
I'll just shout if I.
Okay, that's all I got.
Michael, do you have? any-
No comments here, Mr. Chairman.
So, Kevin,
I just had a couple. Did you mention the hours of operation? But it won't, that won't be a change. Okay.
I mean, do you want to? Okay. There we go.
Do you want to say something?
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Outstanding. Could you repeat the question just to make sure that I heard it correctly?
Is there any proposed change in the hours of operation?
So right now we operate generally between the hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., sometimes 7 p.m. depending on a Saturday. I think our preference would be to add an hour of operation at the end of the day and extend that to on Friday and Saturday, go 9 a.m. through 8 p.m. as our preference, but I think we're amenable to, if it is meaningful to the township, stay within the existing operating hours, but just adding an hour at the end of the day would certainly be helpful from our end.
Since I asked the question, I have no issues with it, obviously, but how come there's no handicap spaces?
There is.
I thought I said in the miscellaneous note, 0 handicap. I was just reading, I think it was page 77 in our packet.
There are at least 2 handicap spaces.
Yeah.
In front of the ramp.
Yeah, the far left and on the building side. Yeah. Space with access to this side.
And then 21 regular parking spaces and 0.
Oh, that, I think that was on the survey sheet.
That was the survey, yes. Right. But this, the site plan is was updated for recent.
And how come there's no address, number address?
You mean on the building itself?
I mean, that was in the notes, so I just don't. Okay, but it's not a change, not
No,
changing it, so
right,
we're good.
yeah.
That's all I had, Mr. Chair. There's no number on it. It says the building, there's no address posted on the building, like 79 Gold Star Highway. You don't, but my point was, my point is just the
Yeah.
use. Are you changing the use? People are gonna find this building, I'm sure. It was a lot, I just remember.
It has a name.
It's not a fire issue and it's no change, so I'm okay.
Back in UPS.
Walmart doesn't have an address.
Hmm?
Walmart doesn't have an address on the building.
No, they don't put, yeah.
There
Yeah,
it is.
No,
Right on the top of the brick.
People do.
No, it's because,
Permit application.
it's because of the name, you put a sign of the name of the building, you don't have to.
We'll change it. Not me personally. Yes.
Anybody have any concern with the draft motion? It's the most complex one I've
I
ever
know,
seen.
I know.
I'll make a motion then to approve site plan 2306 hybrid cannabis retailer. 79 Gold Star Highway with the following modification. One, technical items is raised by staff shall be addressed. Second, it's moved and second by Hal. Any? discussion? We'll vote on the plan. Motion for the site plan 2306. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried unanimously.
You can tell the owners, we thank
Good
them
luck
for their
with that.
continued investment in Groton. We appreciate it.
And thanks to you all. Really appreciate the time here this evening, and we look forward to a prosperous time here in Groton with you all.
And I'll say on the record, I'll thank Deb and the staff. I know. So,
This is the first.
you referred.
Is this the first on this side of the river? They're on this side.
Yeah,
No,
I
no.
don't know where it's located, Norwich, but Montville, I think, has something.
Yep, I believe that's the case. Montville has an operating dispensary,
Yeah.
but that's the closest one.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you.
So probably. make
Thank
the
you all.
front pages in the London day. They won't even know. Huh? They stirred up the public to come here on Monday. They put us on the front page. Huh? Well, it is the first one in the area.
We
Yes.
permitted it.
No, not for this. I meant for the data center.
I didn't hear that it was Madison. So I think it's not about Groton.
No, oh yeah, no, but we're the first in this area because I brought up, well, this time we had a regional planning commission and we were working on that.
Yes.
And nobody else was doing anything with that. And it isn't.
Well, we're always looking at great land use, right? So that's the job.
Reported chair. I don't have anything new to report on, except I had a call from Larry Dunn wanting to set up a meeting in the fall. I thought it was too premature, but on that subject, will we have something from the staff proposing how to handle appeals?
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
So,
Yes, we will. And we are probably going to have a committee of chairpersons meeting probably in August.
it'll be a
To
good
start
time
talking
to
about
talk about. Yes.
outreach and POCD and other plans that are coming up where we need to, get our act together in terms of reaching out to a larger group of people in town. So, yes,
That was one of the things that the property reuse committee is coming up with that procedure, so. Whether or not they voted to accept it or not next door tonight, or they peeled off pieces of it, we'll find
Well,
out.
what?
That's the town property reuse.
Oh, yeah, no,
Because using the same procedure, you can use it for any number of things, just to make sure everybody's involved.
Yeah.
Gets to take a quick look.
oh, that, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, with a POCD,
We use the same thing.
how we work and
Mhm.
whether we have a consultant or not have a consultant.
Right.
How it's, this has been done differently.
Right.
Okay. So that was all I think. Report of commission. Does anyone have any? The staff? Anything else? Next meeting is July 11th.
All right, right. So public hearing and several applications. Yeah. Okay. All right.
No angry corporate investors.
Don't think so. Are we?
Oh, yeah, so I'll move. Move to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Seconded. Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, very good. Night, Michael, or good morning.
Good night now.
Morning.
Have fun.
Good morning, yeah.
Yes,